Okay, we'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll go on to the roll call.
Andy Mary,
Yes.
Jim Balzer, Dr. Dave Bardo,
Yes.
Dr. Noel Deep,
Yep.
Jill Maddock Nelson,
Yes.
Mary Neufeld,
Here.
Danny Pyatt,
Here.
J.D. Schrader,
Here.
Angel Zimmerman,
Here.
And we'll go on to citizens and delegations, public comment. Yep. So several people signed up for public comment, and I'll just say that public comment will be limited to 5 minutes each. And we will start with Mike Blood.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you for a moment. I'm here tonight to talk about graduation and the masking suggestions for graduation. I just wanted to give a couple of comments on that quickly, if I could. Those of you who know me know I've been teaching here for 20-some-odd years. I've spent about 15 years working with our theater program, and I'm bringing that up because in my theater program, I have 3 kind of hard and fast rules that goes with students. The number one that all the students that work with me know, my actors know, that our number one priority is their health and safety. You can ask any of them, they'll tell you that. Number 2 is their grades, and number 3 is the quality of our production. Health and safety is number 1, always for us. The stage can be a dangerous place, so we always work towards that goal. If you can't feel safe on stage, you will not be able to perform well. So, having said that, I'm here to talk a little bit about, hopefully, the health and safety and how our students can feel on graduation, okay? So, here's what I've kind of just put down quickly, all right? One of the things, I guess, that I've looked at here is that we're looking at graduation, where students are walking across the stage, looking for a sense of accomplishment and closure to their 4 years in our building. In the past, 10, 12 years, I have greeted the students as they leave the stage, and I direct them to where they can get a picture taken with their diploma, all right? My concern is that I want every student to come off of that stage after 4 years with a feeling of accomplishment and closure, and not a concern about the health and safety of their families or of themselves. To accomplish that, based on the science, and I bring up science because students are concerned about this. Some of them have voiced that with me because they trust me to voice it with you. The science indicates that the best thing we can do to protect them, have them focused on their sense of accomplishment and that closure, is that they feel safe, that they are doing that for themselves and their families by wearing masks. We teach the kids, social studies teacher, to base good decisions on evidence. The evidence we have, and Darlene can correct me if I'm wrong, but the CDC has not changed masking requirements for schools.
Correct.
So we still have those in place based on science. What I'm asking is that the board make a decision based on science, based on the concern for the students' health and safety, like I try and do on my stage and in my classroom. So we keep the masks in place, please. We keep everybody feeling safe We let them focus on the sense of accomplishment and closure. If we can do that through something as simple as continuing something that kids have gotten used to, we've gotten used to. I've lectured many days this year wearing a mask. And we can do that through the policy decision of the board tonight, so they can focus on this moment, not on safety and health, but on their accomplishments that we have been able to help them achieve. That's what I ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
And the next person up would be Molly Gums.
Good evening. I am the parent of a second grader at the Unified School District of Antigo. She's going to turn 8 this summer, and she has enjoyed her school year so much that she tells me that she wants to teach second grade when she grows up. The global pandemic has created so many challenges for both families and public education. We are so lucky that we have been able to participate in in-person learning all school year. From the beginning, the school district has communicated their plans and responses with families. Every day I have felt confident sending my student that she can be as safe as she can in the hands of the bus drivers, the lunch servers, the teachers, the custodians. I expect that the district will adapt as the pandemic evolves, and I welcome any changes which actively keep students safe, which is why I'm confused and concerned why you would consider a blanket removal of the mask requirement as the recommendations for schools from the CDC, the Department of Public Instruction, and local health authorities has not yet changed. My 7-year-old daughter is not yet able to be vaccinated. Distancing, masks, and hand washing are the only ways that she can hope to remain healthy. She is a smart and kind girl who follows expectations. She will be confused by this abrupt change in policy, and I worry about all of the students and the families who will be forced to choose between safety and peer pressure. I hope that you consider the safety of all students when making this decision, and also when making any decisions going forward. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ingrid Bussey.
Hi, can you hear me okay? My name is Ingrid Busty. I have 4 kids in the school district. Well, one actually has graduated already. And I am a high school special education teacher. I teach students with intellectual disabilities. And I have to say, I have been so impressed by the decisions that the school board has made in regards to the mask situation. Many school districts in the country and state did not start with in-person instruction, and we did. And we did that because we had protocols in place and masks, and it has worked. And we all thought it was going to be horrible for the students, but it really wasn't. We haven't had that many problems with students wearing masks because they know they get to be in school because of that. Our cases have been relatively low, and the illnesses overall have been decreased immensely, so much so that many teachers next year, if it does become optional, will be wearing masks. I think we all agree, well, even my students, honestly, people didn't think my students have a lot of sensory issues, wouldn't be able to wear masks, but they were able to wear their masks throughout the building and in the regular classes, no problem. We all know that masks are not 100% effective, but they do reduce the spread of COVID and other diseases, especially when more people are wearing them. We need to remember too that when we look at these statistics, a lot of people say they're inaccurate, and they are, because I know so many people in this community and actually throughout the country that refuse to get tested that I know were exposed to COVID and likely had it. And so our numbers honestly are a lot higher. It's also important to remember that each one of these numbers is not a number, it is a person. each one of these cases, did it go off? Can you hear myself?
Okay.
Okay. Each one of these cases of COVID and deaths is a person just like you and me. And I am one of those numbers. Now, it's impossible for my classroom doesn't look like regular classrooms. My students have sensory issues, they cannot wear masks 100% of the time. They also can't, some of our students can't take care of themselves. We're dealing with a lot of an area that is not like the other one. So it is no surprise that my department specifically got hit hard with COVID. And a lot of people didn't have really bad experiences. 3 of my kids did not. My older child was extremely sick. My husband and I were hit so hard. And this disease, this virus is so different for everyone. And for me, it was both respiratory and neurological. I was sick, I was having many seizures, I was having trouble walking, I had trouble breathing, every breath hurt. And I'm still having those effects months later. And that might not go away. And there are other people in this community with that experience. We only have 1 week left. 1 week, not even 7 days. It seems silly to get rid of that mask mandate now at this point. Not only that, if we have unmasked graduation ceremony and somebody gets sick or dies, not that that's going to happen, I don't like to live in fear, but we have to be realistic. It is a possibility. The media will go wild with that. We have done so good up until now. I hate to see us getting bad publicity by an outbreak. Our seniors, we have an amazing class. They really are. They are stronger and more resilient than we give them credit for. And if they have to wear a mask at graduation, it's going to be okay. At least they have a graduation. My daughter last year didn't have a regular graduation. So for a couple hours, I am asking you, and for the rest of the year, to keep that mask mandate in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sarah Jorgensen.
Hello. Thank you very much for letting me speak. I'm just going to read the bulk of an email that I wrote to the board, and I hate public speaking, so bear with me, please. Antigo seems to be very behind in relation to the amount of parents standing up and speaking out in other districts, and perhaps that's the main issue, but it does not seem as if all of you are representing what our community truly wants. That the board split 4-4 on outdoor masking at graduation is quite perplexing, and it definitely does not reflect how Antigo and Langley County views this issue. And if you believe it does, I strongly urge you to get out and talk to more people to understand who you are representing. By now, nearly all at-risk people 16 and older have had a chance to get the vaccine. By fall, it's not even going to be an issue. Even the CDC has declared vaccinated persons can remove the mask safely in nearly all situations. The fact that Langley County sits around 40% vaccinated should tell you something. That number has hardly moved in the last month. And I have several questions. I'm not sure if you've addressed them before. I've only watched part of the last meeting. But I would love to see these addressed. Have the stats been looked at for the schools in Wisconsin, which remained open and mask optional all year? Have the stats from schools that were mandatory masking and then switched to optional, have they been reviewed? If not, why? These would be completely relevant to the decisions that you are making. Have you polled the parents on this issue? I did this at All Saints a few weeks ago, and 77% wanted mask optional. Have you looked at the stats for mandatory quarantines across schools for healthy students? Waukesha compiled a 19-page PowerPoint presentation with all the stats from Wisconsin, which showed 99.3% of quarantine students did not go on to develop COVID during the time they were quarantined. Are the negative effects of declining mental health, virtual schooling, mandatory quarantines being weighed against this all COVID, all the time view that is leading so many decisions? This is like a fear-based, worst-case scenario decision-making, and it's run its course. We know so much more now than we did earlier, and I wish you would use that information. Does it matter that children who have been least affected by COVID are the ones paying the price the longest, or will they always need to bear the responsibility to protect adults? Many, not all, but many
of whom have made lifelong unhealthy decisions for themselves and those who are fighting to ever get the virus. The board was not elected to protect the most vulnerable forever at the expense of all the other children. At what point do we stop using such an extreme level of caution that faith, life, and breathing fresh air have no place anymore? When will the parents be allowed to determine the healthiest option and risk tolerance that we are comfortable with for our families and our children? When, if ever, will we be consulted on our views? At what point is the health of a person that person's own responsibility and not our children's? And lastly, why are the goalposts constantly being moved? When this started, it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. That turned into mask up until the hospitals aren't overwhelmed. They haven't been since November. That's turned into mask up until all the vulnerable who want it can be vaccinated. And it appears like we're heading exactly towards what the conspiracy theorists said last spring. Mask up the kids until they're vaccinated. And that's not going to fly with the majority of parents, the overwhelming majority. If you're out there talking to parents, you would know this already. So if that's the case, what else are you waiting for? The virus to magically disappear, 0 cases, the CDC to tell us that it's okay? Like, enough is enough already. You were elected to listen to us, and I don't feel as if you are listening to us. Yes, we only have 1 week of school left, but if you don't put in a good faith effort to show us that outdoor graduation, summer school, that you're listening and that you're reflecting the low case count, we don't really have a hope for fall. And I don't know how many kids you're willing to lose in the school district to other schools around us that are letting the parents make that decision, but I guess that's on you. And lastly, I was told to ask anyone who's in support of my view to stand up to show the board who feels the same way about this issue so that they understand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go on to Gail Zabrowski.
I'm here because I read the newspaper, and you had a meeting tonight and on the mask. So all in my mind is just going. And I know you're all good people and you want the best. But the party was making a good decision. Okay, so I've been asking the questions. I want to go as fast as I can. Is I haven't heard one time, not one time, about the ozone layer. Doctor knows about the ozone layer. I've had medical studies. The ozone layer is what kills bacteria. If we didn't have the ozone layer, we'd be dead in about 2 days. So thank God for that. Now we're wearing masks outside. So it's seems like it's getting worse. So, and the science of it. There's no science behind the 6 feet apart. There's no science with the mask. And I watched articles by doctors, and one was a video of a doctor talking to doctors. And they took every country, when they started wearing masks, guess what happened? The numbers went up. They were all declining. And they put masks on, and they all are up, and the United States. Okay. So mask or not, it should be a right, not a have to. To make me wear a mask or get vaccinated, that is a priority, just like the flu shot. If you want to get a vaccine and you think you've got to have it, but our kid's supposed to be immune. Now they want to put a healthy child and shoot it with a vaccine. And our younger children are supposed to be immune. Okay? So that's something you got to think about. If you want to wear a mask, I am not going to stop you. But don't make me wear a mask. I have an ozone layer. I keep myself clean. We do keep the school clean. And I may not agree with a few things. That medical does not enter the school. Medical is a medical field. We do keep our school clean. We do keep it wiped down. We should. But telling our kids that they have to be vaccinated and have to wear a mask. But if say he's got a cough or something and he doesn't want to spread it and he wants to wear a mask, absolutely. I'm not going to say, hey, are you crazy? But don't tell people who don't wear masks that they're crazy and they have to be vaccinated. and shoot something into a healthy person, they are looking for a year to year and a half to 2 years to see how the shots have an effect on people. They don't even know yet. So you could be dying in a year and a half to 2 years because they really don't know yet. So it's still all up in the air. Fauci and Gates put a lot of money into this disease, and hopefully they go to prison. Because this was called a tryout for a world control. They wanted to see how far they could go. Did they go far? Absolutely. They got that disease around the world, and now they have you wearing masks. And now if you make it law, and law they're trying to make that you have the vaccine, that's called total control, socialism, communism. And I think you need to remember that the parents have the rights for the kids. And they should be able to say, yes, I'll wear a mask, or no, I won't. That is not for a school to say so. And if I had a cold tonight, I'd probably wear a mask. But guess what? Is it an N95 mask? Do you know what an N95 mask? That's what they wear in the high school. The doctor would know. The bacteria does not go through those masks, but every one of you wearing the mask, it goes through. And now people are getting infections in their lungs because they're wearing the mask over and over and over again. So what are we doing? We're causing more problems. Let people be free. If they want to wear a mask, fine. If they don't, and they're healthy, and they've not been sick, let them. Don't force everything down somebody's throat.
Thank you. And last, but Rod Zupan.
Well, I really didn't plan on speaking my first time to one of these. Just wanted to voice my opinion, I guess. At this point, a lot of people kind of already covered what I was thinking, but with the outside graduation, I would hope that it's an option for kids and parents attending. And then next year, it should for sure be optional. I have a junior, going to be a senior next year. With everything I've seen, and in sports, trying to wear masks and shields, and they can't shake hands afterwards. They can touch each other all they want on the field. Makes no sense. I don't believe that the masks help that much. Hospitals are probably one of the cleanest places you can have, and yet there was still COVID. There's COVID in other places that have been very clean. So, with that said, I hope you guys vote the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. And we will go on to item B, which is student representative report.
Okay, so with the school year wrapping up, this week is the last week for seniors, and next week will be the last week for middle school students and other high school students. Thursday night at 6 o'clock is the scholarship and awards ceremony being put on by the counseling office, and you can watch it live over Google Meet. The link is on the district website. Graduation is still scheduled for Sunday, and it looks like we will have an outdoor graduation if the weather continues to cooperate. They're saying there's not going to be rain, but we'll see. Hopefully there's not rain. Last week, FFA held their annual greenhouse sale, selling a variety of flowers, vegetables, and other plants. NHS held their banquet and pickleball tournament 2 weekends ago, actually, both of which were a great success. And we had a lot of community members turn out for the pickleball tournament, and it was a lot of fun. Last Friday, the school held a raffle in support of Tommy Wagner, who is a 10th grader who was recently diagnosed with leukemia. Sports teams at the high school level have also shown their support for Tommy by sporting uniforms with his name and symbols supporting him. The spring sports season is also wrapping up to a close in the next couple of weeks as teams are having their last couple of games. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to item 3, the consent agenda. Somebody would like to make a motion?
I move the board approve the minutes from the April 27, 2021 Board of Education meeting, financial report from April 2021, consideration of current bills, check number 4698 through 4780 in the amount of $304,939.73. ACH number 202100850 through 202100948 in the amount of $887,263.65, and one wire transfer in the amount of $10,632.85 for a total of $1,202,836.23.
Second.
Any comments or questions on the consent agenda? Then we go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Bardo,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Maddock Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes. And we'll go on to item 4, the COVID update.
Okay, so as of this week, we have 5 students who are temporarily remote and 1 staff member who is quarantined. Also, we sent a letter to 34 students in grades 7 to 11 who are demonstrating success with remote learning this year, and talked to them about next year and their preferences if we don't offer it, and ask them to contact the high school because that's where they'll all be if they have any questions. And I checked with Bree Kretz recently and no one has contacted. So either they're prepared for in-person learning or they would like to explore another virtual option, but no indication of that yet. So just to clarify, and the public knows, on our agenda tonight, we have masks being looked at again for graduation and for the foreseeable future. And it is true that right after the board voted 2 weeks ago, the CDC came out with guidelines for those who are vaccinated. But it is noteworthy that those guidelines do not apply to schools and public K-12 schools, and they cited the reasons as anyone 12 and under is not yet eligible for the vaccination, and also the time frame, that it is getting closer to the end of the school year, and so to elicit change might be a bit rushed. So for whatever that is worth. That concludes my update, but I know Darlene has some statistics to share, and then we'll have an updated recommendation from Dr. McKenna.
Yeah, so like Dr. Sprague said, the CDC and DHS and DPI have not changed the guidelines for school. They feel that the mitigation strategies have been very successful, and to be honest, Antigo School District proved that. We were very successful. We kept the school open from the day it opened in September to next week, and that's got to be really exciting, number one. So I give that to all of our staff who were the frontline workers to keep the kids as safe as they could. But just to move forward, I do have some statistics for you. Currently, with the kids that we have currently enrolled in the school district, 49% of the students, that is 948 of our students currently, are younger than 12 years old. They do not have any options against COVID, okay? 51% are 12 and older. I talked with public health today in Langlade County, and this will include the other 2 school districts as well as the kids at Peace and All Saints. But in Langlade County currently, only 5.2% of the 12 to 15-year-olds have received their first dose. They haven't been, there aren't any fully vaccinated at this point because of the time of the CDC change or the approval for Pfizer. So at this point, only 5.2% of the 12 to 15-year-olds are partially vaccinated. Of the 16 to 17 age group, and this again includes all of Langley County, is only 11.3% that are partially or fully vaccinated. Pfizer is the only vaccine that can be given to that group, in that younger age group. We have 3 vaccinators in Langley County that have Pfizer: Walgreens, Lakeside, and Public Health. I contacted each of them. Public Health has not even given out one to that age group, to the 12 to 15 age group yet. They haven't given out any. They are going to be having a clinic on June 8th for that age group, but they have not administered any to that age group. Walgreens, they said maybe they give out 20 a week. Maybe, that was a guess. I asked them to be a little more clear. They said the pharmacist was busy, but that's what they were guesstimating. And Lakeside said about 6 a week is all that they're reaching out and getting. So Walmart and Aspirus, they have the Moderna, and they can't give that to the younger group. So, and Langley County, according to Public Health, as it was stated, only 40.2% of Langley County are partially or fully vaccinated of all eligible groups. So I just wanted to give those statistics out to you, so it might help you better understand the issues at hand.
Darlene, what was that date again for when they're going to do it?
June 8th.
June 8th.
June 8th. They have to, they can go onto the Public Health website and register, and then Public Health will get in contact with them. Yesterday, there were only two kids within the 12 to 15 age group signed up.
And what would the date be that since vaccines have been eligible for 12 to 15, if somebody had, say it had taken them a week to get an appointment and they wanted to get an appointment, when would they be fully vaccinated if they had done that?
Well, they would be 21 days after their first.
And it's 2 weeks after that.
And I mean, 2 weeks after they get their second vaccine at around day 21, and then 14 days after that, they're fully vaccinated.
But so was that 3 weeks ago that became eligible?
I don't think it was quite 3 weeks.
It was, you could start to get vaccine like, not this past Saturday, but maybe the third, the Saturday, Friday before you could get appointments.
So about 2 weeks.
Yeah, because I remember before we came to the committee of the whole, I talked with Lakeside, and they were, at that point, they said that people were calling, they could put on the list, but they were not able to give it at that point. So 2 weeks ago, they still couldn't give it.
Okay.
I think they approved it on very close.
Yeah.
Has Public Health provided a reason why they haven't given out any vaccines to 12 to 15-year-olds?
They haven't had anybody reach out at this point.
So lack of interest?
Yeah. As far as I know. Now, that's just from, I didn't specifically ask that question, but they do have a protocol in place where the parent has to be with them. And then again, they've got the time frame and everything like that. They get the vaccine according to the amount of, they kind of guesstimate how many they're going to give out in a week. And that's when they order it. So, and they have to order either 1 or 2 weeks before they are scheduled to give them.
And to that point, I know that Lakeside and Walgreens have been very easy to get into for vaccines.
Yes.
So for my children signed up at Walgreens and got
Yes.
it really quickly.
And I did talk with Lakeside. They said that they can call and get in the next day. So, and in fact, someone had mentioned to me today that they called for their child. They're going in tomorrow at 10. So it's getting relatively easy to get in to get the vaccines now.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just speak briefly. In terms of, I think when I last spoke, the CDC had not discussed the opening of guidelines in terms of vaccinated individuals. I will say that in the past couple of weeks, I think we've seen different things both on a national level and on a local level, representing a whole bunch of different needs and hopes. I think from the medical advising standpoint, from that end, that I think it's important to emphasize that this will not be forever, that the pandemic is going to end in some manner. We are not going to be in a long-term crisis where we are wearing masks forever. That is, I think, both from a political standpoint, I don't think we all would tolerate that, and from a needs standpoint. Numbers will continue to go down. Vaccination rates, those slowing down, have made a significant dent in caseloads throughout the country, and will continue to do that. And as we all know, with other very successful vaccines like pneumococcal vaccination for pneumonias, that when we vaccinate children, it actually benefits our elders in our communities, which is actually a bedrock principle of vaccinating younger individuals. So if those vaccines are safe, which they're doing those trials on very carefully right now, and younger children are approved, that will also continue to move us forward. I think a gentleman mentioned about graduation next year. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball. Crazy situations could happen, but I mean, I personally would not anticipate that we'll be wearing masks next spring. I mean, I just don't see that as a likelihood. The way numbers have gone, even in places where we've had a lot of cases in India, those numbers will start to come down. And even though it's not as good, there certainly appears to be some immunity from natural infection. And so vaccination plus natural infection ultimately add up to protection in a broader sense and less severe cases. So this has been a very difficult time for many people in the community in terms of isolation, in terms of the restrictions, in terms of fears. And I anticipate that we're going to move forward, and I hope that we all move forward together and that we do our best together. I will say that our recommendations from a medical standpoint have been to do our best to guide the safety of our district, to educate our students, and really to do our best for our community. To that end, I appreciate always the board's discernment. I think these are difficult decisions to make. As Darlene, appropriately noted, the recommendations have not changed, but certainly I think there's always space to try to figure out and accommodate broad viewpoints. And if it's safe to do that, I think that's a very reasonable thing. And certainly, from a consistency standpoint, I would perhaps ask that we continue to finish the year perhaps with the current standards, and then sit down and assess the summer school and begin our process as we have intended to look at the coming school year and see how we can accommodate all the broad viewpoints while doing our best to maintain the safety of our students. I mean, I will say, last year when we were thinking about the school year, I think a strong emphasis was that educating students at home virtually is a tremendous challenge and hurts students and hurts the ability of students to succeed. And so we said, how can we balance that out? And so I certainly would continue as a medical advisor to look to try to thread that needle and to balance out the needs of both safety, but also the needs of students and the needs of, to be able to, to move forward and to open up as we go through, the summer and into the school year. And I think that this is a situation that does continue to change. To also, just in closing, to echo what Darlene noted, I think, let's move, we'll hopefully be able to move forward beyond the masks and them as a mandate, and look to that, look to masking in the near term, I would say, as a recommendation, but rather than a strict requirement. And also to really pivot toward helping people make good decisions about vaccines. Vaccines are one of the greatest gifts that God has given us, frankly. This is a gift in terms of health and longevity that has changed the course of human history. There are illnesses that ravaged humanity for years that no longer exist because of vaccination. And this is another case where we can move forward together as a community, and I hope that we will do so. I'm happy to answer any questions from the board.
Patrick, I have a couple.
Yes.
What's going to happen like with the Green Bay Packers? They're going to require them to wear masks in that group setting when they go back to their stadium at full capacity.
Wait, say what?
Pro sports.
Yeah.
Big mass gatherings. Are they going to wear masks?
You know, I think the future is very open, you know, in a way. It's really hard to know 4 or 5 months from now how the situation will be, but I actually think that, I know someone asked or commented on 0 COVID cases. Well, in parts of the UK, actually the UK a couple weeks ago had a day with 0 cases. It sounds like a crazy sort of situation, but this is the reality that will happen as we move forward. That cases really, I mean, and even right now, do continue to decline. And I know a month ago they were increasing. Well, I was looking at our hospital data, and you know, it has decreased quite a bit. It's 1.3% of the tests we did for individuals we thought might have COVID came back positive, and that's a very low number.
I read in the Milwaukee Journal the other day that they said they're going to try to get Lambeau Field back to full capacity for this year, but they weren't sure what they were going to do with masks or vaccines or...
It's a fascinating situation. I hope that we're able to move more into regular life as we head through this year.
How do you feel about no masks at graduation for people who are vaccinated without checking? Let's say we don't check.
You know, that's such a great question. When it comes to the guidelines for vaccination and no masks, I think is pretty good science and pretty good, you know, it's pretty clear. I think, you know, if you've been vaccinated, you're fairly safe from infection, and outdoor environment's pretty safe. So, you know, on some level, I think this is very important in our community and in general. We're going to have to find ways to trust one another and to assume good intention and, you know, decency of all the people we know and care about. You know, and so if you say, you know, if the board were to say, you know, individuals, you know, who have been vaccinated don't need to wear a mask, you know, you'd have to depend and trust people to do their best and to be their best people. And I think any situation in which we can do that, I think we should reach out and do that with any issue. So, but it's you know, that's a challenge.
So what if we talked briefly last week? Let's say we make that the first sentence. You don't have to wear your mask if you're vaccinated. Second sentence, only got to wear your mask into the building. You can take them off when you sit down and you're 8 feet apart for everybody else.
Oh, you mean out on the field?
Yes, out on the field. Assuming we can be outside. Does that, I mean, if we're trying to find some sort of compromise for this year, so everybody's not so mad at each other.
I think looking for good compromises to, again, try to accommodate broad viewpoints. You know, people have legitimate concerns for safety. People have legitimate concerns for freedom and moving forward. And sometimes those are difficult to reconcile. And I think looking for those as a board is why you all were elected. So you know, and I support those efforts.
Next, it's hard for me to say, let's just stop wearing masks this year. There's only a week left. Next year, probably in September, down to 2 years old, could be vaccinated. So say in October, it'd be real easy to say no masks. Any parent who wanted to vaccinate their kid had the chance.
I think you are hitting upon, I think, a key thing that I was thinking about, because I thought, when do we stop? You know, when do we end this? And truly, I do think it does come down to a point where you can say individuals have been offered and everyone is able to get it, you know, within a reasonable range, you know, all school-age children, I think that'd be very reasonable.
And maybe it's even, high school does not have to wear at the beginning of the year because they had the chance.
Again, I think that could be a very reasonable option. We haven't sat down to really look at that, but exactly right. I think that next year looks very different from this past year, very different. And as we say too, like let's say numbers stay persistently really down. Let's say we have a period of time where there are 0 cases. Then maybe really we're saying, why would we require masks even in individuals maybe who haven't been vaccinated? Maybe because the levels are so low that of course, if people feel the need to wear them, we of course support that, but that they would be perhaps even recommended or even not recommended depending on the numbers, or just say, it's an open option. I think that's definitely all in play here as we move through the summer months. And actually, I support that. I support moving forward with looking to ways to, again, further open things up in a reasonable and safe way, and to sit down and say, all right, talking with the athletic director, talking with staff, how can we further break down barriers that inhibit education, that inhibit good, positive socialization? How can we move forward in a good way to help this be a better year, moving on?
It's an interesting theoretical justification because the vaccine is letting you protect yourself and the mask is protecting somebody else. And so when you have that chance, then it is truly up to you if you want to take it or not.
Right.
More so than saying, should I have the right or not to wear it? It's sort of like, Dave, I could hear you sort of in the tractor. You had a nice speech on freedom to choose. And I thought, well, I wanted to ask you, would you let kids drink when they're 12? Would you let them smoke pot? Would you give them that right? I was just curious how far you were willing to take that principle. Not strictly relevant, but if you feel very strongly about it, I was just curious if do you apply that to all areas of your political philosophy? Even libertarianism is you can take any action, but not an action that harms somebody else. And so even a libertarian in that situation would say, well, you better wear a mask, versus,
So where I was going was that 18-year-olds, which is pretty much our senior class, have the right to vote, and they should have the right to choose. For everybody who's under 18, that's their parents' responsibility. And it's the parents' responsibility to say, in my view, wear masks to school or don't wear masks to school. That's where I'm coming from. I do have a question though.
Absolutely.
And I've said this before, I was one of the first people in Lake County to take a test and be rated positive because I had it.
Absolutely.
Back in September. So, I read in the paper yesterday that Senator Rand Paul, who is a medical doctor, said he's not wearing a mask anywhere, told that to Congress, because he has natural antibodies. So therefore, as I have been saying for months now, when I go into stores without a mask, I have natural antibodies because I had a positive test for COVID and I went through the exhaustion for a week.
When was
So the point is September, end of September. So the point being, I went through all the protocols, stayed in the house. So when JD says, well, if you got the shot, you should be able to not wear a mask. What about us who've already had it and have natural immunity?
Well, it's a very reasonable question, and I don't think the science has fully answered that yet. Also along those lines, at some point, we'll get an understanding of how long the vaccines are effective as well. Again, just to be upfront, some vaccines last for very long periods of time and others less, and we don't know. When it comes to natural immunity, one of my colleagues, Dr. Hagerness, he was positive in the springtime, and then and he was giving me plasma, and he said, Patrick, he said, I don't have antibodies anymore. And I think he said that about 5 or 6 months after. And current data suggests that antibodies perhaps do wane in natural immunity around 5 or 6 months. The exact implications of that are unclear. I'll say I've had patients, who appear to have had coronavirus twice now. That's a very small number, but it's also a possibility. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a very fair point. I think as we move forward, I think, I mean, if I were to ask you offline, I would ask you more about the reasons for or against getting vaccinated, perhaps, and talk to you about that, because I'd be curious about it and want to hear more about it.
I won't.
Yeah, and certainly I might ask you in the future.
Well, I'm saying,
I don't think
won't.
that's a discussion for here tonight.
Yeah,
Oh, you're saying
absolutely.
you won't. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah.
So have we looked at the local data, or what are we basing our recommendations off of, I guess? CDC's reference for their guidance, is that our primary source for the recommendations?
We do the state, federal, and the local. When I talk with public health, they are, again, still strongly recommending, or highly recommending masking. But because schools, I haven't talked with them specifically as far as the CDC with the schooling, but they are governed by the DHS and by the CDC. So our local authorities, as well as the state and federal, that is what we base that's what we have been basing our guidelines on, is by the medical authorities in those groups.
So we're not basing our guidelines off any local data, correct? If I'm hearing that correctly?
We're basing it off of the scientific evidence that we've gotten from the medical authorities at the local, state, and federal levels.
So I know I've personally received a lot of outreach regarding data local, and I know I asked the questions 2 weeks ago too. It would be beneficial, in my perspective, to know what the data is for White Lake. That's allowed mask optional for the entire year, and Elko, since lifting pre and post mask requirements, Peace Lutheran. So I feel like it would be helpful for the community to feel comfortable with justifying decisions based off of our local data and what's happening here. I'm just curious if we have any follow-up on that data of our current population.
Jill, that's such a great point. You know what I'm going to do after the school year is done? I'm going to reach out to White Lake and Elko and to Peace Lutheran and see if they have any data or information to give me. And then we'll look at our data here and we'll do some analysis, and maybe even we can write it up. So I'd be happy to do that, and I'm glad you brought it up. I think of course, it is sometimes tough to compare, Antigo Unified School District. I'm not aware of how many students are in our school district, approximately.
About 2,000.
How many are in the White Lake School District? Would anyone know that here?
I think they have about 12 per class.
Okay. So it can be difficult sometimes when you're comparing small sample sets, just statistically, but I think it's really worthwhile to look at their information. I imagine Elko's a little bit bigger. I don't know.
Yeah, and sample size would play a role. It would also be interesting that masks stop the spread and things like that. It'd be interesting to see if, even with a smaller sample size, does it create any significant difference in outcomes?
Yeah, and as you do know, sample size does skew things. That's why when we do large studies, we try to get big numbers, because small numbers can really skew things and make things look falsely one way or another sometimes. So that's why you really want as large a sample group as possible. But I do suspect there are other schools, perhaps even, that we could reach out to and perhaps get more numbers to help even that out. So, I don't know what Crandon's policy has been. I'm going to be honest, I like to enjoy my summer and do some gardening, and so I'm not going to expend all my efforts on this, but I certainly will look into it and see what I can do. I appreciate it.
Would the transiency of the population also have an impact?
You mean?
People moving in and out, or people traveling between communities, and if you have a less transient population?
Well, that's a good question, I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of factors that potentially go into
Oh,
that discussion.
There definitely is. I mean, I think looking at that data, I think it is worthwhile. So I appreciate that, Joe. Thank you.
Okay, unless there's any more questions for Patrick, we will go on with the rest of the COVID update.
Mr. President, I think it's very obvious that most of the people here tonight are here for, I believe it's 6A and 6B. Is there a chance that we could move that up ahead of 5A so that, I mean, we like people to come. If they want to stay, they certainly could, but we have a lot of business, and I know the great majority out there, I think, is waiting for 6A and 6B. So is it possible if we move that up before our CISA 9 presentation?
Let me just talk to Julie for 1 second.
No problem. Just asking.
So I'm just going to point out that really should have happened at the time of the consent agenda, but I'm willing to ask the board here if everybody is agreeable to doing that. And so if everybody is, we good.
Yes.
Yes. And thank you.
Okay.
Can we have one more COVID update discussion item prior to?
Sure.
It has to do with the number of guests at graduation. Now, it is not posted as an action item this evening. However, it has been suggested that we could raise the number of tickets per graduate from 4 to 6. Jake will present the logistic specs for you of what that would look like for the layout at Listle Field. I just want the board to be aware, though, it's easier said than done because our time frame is very short, and how we get those extra tickets in students' hands is going to be a bit of a struggle. And if we leave it up to the kids and then they don't follow through, we could have upset parents, etc. But Jake, would you please tell us how it could look with 6 guests per graduate?
So right now we have it set up for everyone, meaning students and guests, to be seated in chairs on the grass infield of the track, the soccer field. The stage will be on the track. And then working out from the stage, obviously the students will be in the first 7 rows, and they will be 6 feet between them left and right and 6 feet front and back. The intent would be to keep that way. After starting in the 8th row, we would start putting pods of chairs. So right now it's planned for 4 chairs, side by side. The theory there is they're from the same household, they're the same group, they're going to be together prior to that, after that. So putting those 4 together was the plan prior. We can fit 2 more on each one of those pods, so we'd have pods of 6. And then again, each pod would be 6 feet between left and right and front and back to the next pod of 6 chairs. I called today. We can get the chairs. Some may be white, some might be black, but it sounds like we can get them as of about 10 o'clock today. And if that's the wishes, I'll call and secure them right away first thing in the morning. So,
Jake, is this moving some people further back?
It would end up being further back for some, yes.
And I'm not quite sure how far. So the stage is going to be on the track, and then can you give us some idea of how far back the back row is?
The stage will be on the east side of the soccer field, facing west, and then basically the chairs are probably going to go all the way across the field to the west.
Whether it's 6 or 4?
Probably pretty close, because where we go with the 6 is as the half circles come around the back corners, would start to get populated.
So it's whoever shows up earliest is going to get the closest seats. And that's always been the case in graduation. Whoever shows up earliest gets the best seat, whatever they think the best seat is.
From a medical standpoint, I mean, I think that sounds incredibly reasonable logistically. I mean, case numbers being what they are, having decreased, and the nature of the event. So just to note that.
Can I just say, when we're talking about the number of tickets and you're talking about our time frame here, when was that we had the presentation with the kids? Remember when Steph Bartletti spoke? April? Or was that March? April, okay, and there was something about 2 tickets, and I said, why not 4, and okay, 4, and now here we are, 5 days before, and now, I mean, this should, I'm thinking that this should have come up weeks ago. You know, everybody's known that they were gonna get 4 tickets, and I agree, however, you know, open the doors. But here we are now, and I just think that it was kind of not good planning on everybody's part here, that it should have been brought to the board.
To that point, even when we had a committee of the whole meeting, we did not have the guidance from the CDC.
Okay.
2 days after our meeting, the CDC said that those who are vaccinated can attend these groups. So if you were a grandparent and you were thinking twice about whether or not you wanted to attend, I think this probably swayed them towards coming because they were vaccinated, and now you are hearing from the health experts saying that it's okay for you to be in a group setting.
Right.
And maybe hearing the fact that, you know, you are having an outdoor graduation possibly impacted them in a positive way to attend the meeting, the graduation.
Sure, but I still think that there was ample time to have brought this forward to get tickets printed and make sure that the kids were responsible enough to get the tickets to the parents. I don't know. That's just my thought, so.
Did they already give out the 4 tonight?
Yeah.
The kids already have the 4?
Yes.
It's just the extras though.
Right.
Yeah.
Darlene,
So right now, there's only 150 tickets, I believe, extra. They do not, and they ordered 800 tickets, 800 programs. By increasing the amount of tickets, that puts us up over 1,000 people there, which, again, outside, if you're vaccinated, you know, Jake did a great job of planning it out. But I specifically asked if there was going to be enough time to get more tickets and more programs printed, and the answer was no.
yeah, I think grandparents can share a program with the parents.
Right, they can share programs.
And we'll just make that clear if we want to do this.
And not everybody's going to use 6 tickets or even 4 tickets.
Yeah.
Correct. So.
Who prints the programs?
And that's if it's not raining.
I'm not sure.
Right, exactly.
But for tickets, programs, right, we can share tickets. If we add 2, they would be makeshift and just look different than the originals.
Claremont Printing doesn't do that?
I'm not sure, Danny.
Or even, yeah, Annie goes first.
Sorry, Phil?
Yeah, we would just do them in-house.
So Mary, to speak on your concern, feedback I've received from parents of seniors is that that their wishes and feedback hasn't been sought after to this point.
But I hadn't heard anything about 6 tickets until we started getting these emails. Nobody had said anything to me about wanting more tickets. Yesterday I got 4 texts. Please, please, can we get more tickets? It was never brought to our attention before.
Nor to mine.
No.
This
And
was the
so-
first I
And so I
had been
get
asked
it,
as
but
well.
yeah, I'm just saying that I'm all for however many tickets that can be printed and that it's safe for people to be at. But it's short notice.
Okay, Bailey, did you have a comment?
Yeah, so if I could just interject for a second. As a senior with divorced and remarried parents, we were excited to see the tickets go from 2 to 4. But I feel that 6 would be beneficial personally for my family because my grandparents have been just as much a part of raising me as my parents have throughout my life. The one comment that I would say with that is I support a mask mandate in both cases of 4 and 6 tickets, but I think it's especially important to have it in place if we decide to increase the number of tickets, because the number of people there will increase as well, and there's more chances of people congregating without masks. That's all I have to say.
Do you think many kids got vaccinated?
What's that?
Do you think many seniors got vaccinated?
I'm fully vaccinated. I got my 2nd dose back in April, and I can count at least probably 4 of my friends who are fully vaccinated at this point as well. One is sitting back there. So.
Okay. So just on the matter of 4 tickets versus 6 tickets, I'm not hearing any opposition to 6 tickets. Am I wrong there?
Okay,
It's not an action item, but if you want to, we can
do it.
We're not going to make it an action item. It's a consensus item.
Yep.
Okay. So be it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so we have that consensus.
So can you clarify what that means for anybody that's here or watching, and what the result or what you just shared, what that means to the audience or to the parents?
So for anything to be an action item, if the board was going to vote on it, it would have to be posted on the agenda as increasing the number of tickets, and it's not posted, so we can't vote on it. We're not going to vote on it. As in the COVID update, we can talk about things and we can come to consensus on things we want to do. And that's what we have just done. We've said, yes, we have a consensus to have 6 tickets. And administration can figure it out. Okay.
Thank you.
So, let me see. Is there more on COVID update?
That's it.
Okay. And so we have agreed to jump down to item 6A, consideration to recommend mask at graduation for all attending.
So are we looking for a new motion here?
You can make any motion you want at this point.
I will make a motion that vaccinated people do not have to wear masks, and we will ask unvaccinated people to please wear a mask until they take their seat.
Okay? Did you get that, Mary Kay? And is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Mary Kay, can you read that again? The motion?
Judy made the motion that vaccinated people do not need to wear masks. However, unvaccinated people wear masks until they get to their seats at graduation.
Thank you. Can I make a recommendation to use the microphone in the TA so we all back here can hear?
It's like,
We used it earlier.
haven't heard anything.
We have the technology. Use the microphone, please.
Okay, thank you.
We've lost the whole meeting.
We never have any people come, so we're not used to it.
Unprepared.
Just read it. I'm more likely to screw it up a second time.
The motion was made to allow vaccinated people at graduations with masks and unvaccinated, with no masks, excuse me, and unvaccinated people to wear the masks until they are seated at graduation. Second by Neufeld.
Let me just ask in the back there, Terry, I'll just ask you, are you having problems hearing all of us?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Muffled.
So
I usually
pass
read
that
lips,
mic
but
around.
I can't read lips because they're all wearing masks.
Still on? Anybody commenting?
Okay. Anybody have questions or comments on the motion? Okay, I'll ask one more time. Does anybody have questions or comments on the motion? And if not, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Deep,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes. Okay, we will go on to item 6B, consideration to recommend mask district-wide beginning Wednesday. Well, okay.
Mr. President, this is wrong because we already have that as a practice in this. It's a policy.
The word change was recommended rather than required. We've been requiring them all along, and this motion suggests changing that to recommending only.
I asked the same clarifying question.
So Julie, can you clarify, once the motion's been made, what a yes vote is and what a no vote means
Sure.
for everybody?
The question is in the motion, which reads, the current motion, I move the board recommend masks district-wide beginning Wednesday, May 26, 2021. So that is actually a change if this passes from what we have now. Right now, masks are required of everyone, students, staff, and the limited visitors we have in our buildings. This change is to the word recommend, which recognizes CDC and other guidelines, however, does give the choice then to families. So a yes, an agreement to this goes to that masks being optional moving forward.
And if anybody wants to speak or make a motion, I will bring the mic to you.
I'm going to say I'm on.
Yeah, it should be.
Hello. I don't feel strongly about this particularly one way or another. There's people on both sides. I'd just rather keep it consistent for the rest. There's only 1 week left. The kids have been toughing it out. So I'm very willing to no masks at some point next year, very early next year. And I just say that is not determined how I'll vote next year.
No, we haven't had a motion, and I'd ask.
I'll make that motion.
I move the board recommend mask district-wide beginning Wednesday, May 26, 2021.
Okay, second. I'll second the motion.
Going to see.
So it makes it optional, a
I'll
yes is
second
an
the motion.
optional for parents.
JD, I agree with you. I think there's only 5 face-to-face days left for the kids. And I think that consistency, I go to 2 different schools several times a week after school. The kids come out, they've got their masks on, the teachers on duty have their masks on, everybody. I see kids walking down Fifth Avenue wearing their masks after school. They forget to take them off. I just think consistency, less confusion. They know why they were wearing the masks. I think we should just go over the next 5 face-to-face days with masks.
I think we have heard from Dr. McKenna and Darlene, and I think we have heard about the CDC saying that, whatever recommendations they've given excludes school districts from that recommendation that people can go without masks, or even if they're vaccinated, that they do not have to wear masks. And we have heard that we have students who are not eligible yet and who have not completed their series of vaccinations. And for at least the past year, we have seen that the students have done well. Our district has done remarkably well. We have been able to have in-person instruction 4 days a week, and fortunately, we have kept our students safe.
I think another week would be great if we can continue with the mask as it is. And I am hoping and praying that when things start in September, we will not be having masks for our students or staff. And I'd like to personally thank our staff and administration for all they've done this past year. Thank you.
I continue to support parents' ability to determine if they would like their child to wear a mask or not wear a mask. I think there's a big difference between able to wear a mask and the impacts of wearing a mask. Just because students don't always verbalize or show their struggles wearing a mask doesn't mean that that's not occurring. I don't know that we really looked at the social emotional impacts. I have a 5-year-old who hasn't seen her teacher's face all year and doesn't get mask breaks because of their school schedule. I have heard concerns from students regarding tech ed, autos, it's the other one, metals class, in which there are class activities and requirements that cause sparks from like welding or grinding. So I'm concerned about things that we haven't talked about, like safety concerns and fire hazards on our students' faces. I think we also overlook the mask hygiene and hand sanitizing and touching masks, and masks becoming ineffective the more times you touch them, and condensation in the weather's warmer outside. Kids are kids, they're not clean, we all know that. So I think, I'm not saying masks don't work, but I also think we're ignoring how often we touch our own masks and not cleaning them and keeping them sanitized, and how much are we helping versus hindering in that sense. So I continue to support, I feel like parents can make an informed decision for their child, and I also think that there's a lot of pressure to wear a mask, or the pressure to wear a mask and not wear a mask can go both ways. I think an optional decision can be done in a respectful manner.
Andy,
Bailey, could I ask you to come up and be the bearer of the microphone?
Yeah. You wanted it right, JP?
Yeah. Brief. What it actually is when I went to the tech and learned how to weld last December, you wore this mask around, and then you put your welding helmet down. You could take this mask off. I guess I never thought about that here. I wouldn't have been opposed to it. They're still wearing a mask, a welding one. It's obviously tougher than this mask. I don't know, maybe that's something we should have looked at. Jill, you actually, I don't know, we never talked about that before. Perfectly good point. Why wear a cloth mask under a plastic welding mask, grinding mask?
For the most part, lab classes were canceled this school year, and we had limited schedules at the high school especially, and we're just now having students do more hands-on activities. But you're right, regardless, if students were welding, they would have face covering.
I just want to piggyback on what Jill was talking whenever she said that she has confidence or faith to believe that the parents can make the decision for their children, right? That's America. That's the land of the freedom that we live in, that we love dearly, right? So we're thinking about masks being a risk, not wearing a mask, right? Is that the word, risk, if we don't wear a mask? Well, don't we take risks for just about everything we do in a day that we all have to make decisions about? Car deaths went up 8% last year during the pandemic. Car accidents went up, car deaths went up 8% to 42,000 people, so it's not safe to drive, it's a risk. Pedestrians last year 5,977 pedestrians were killed So it's a risk to take a walk. Dr. Deep, I'm sorry, I can't walk anymore. It's a risk. But no, I'll continue to walk, I'll continue to drive a car. And just like we've heard other people, I think we should have been wearing masks whenever we had colds all along, and flu. What happened to the flu over the last year? It flew away. I don't know. But I really believe that we need to leave it up to the parents to make the decision for their kids and wearing a mask. I've got one more statement that I'm probably going to be crucified over, but what happened to my body, my choice? Or is that just for another social program?
Patrick, what's the rule for elementary kids? Do they have to have certain vaccinations in Wisconsin before they're allowed to come to school? Just out of curiosity, just since we're having hypothetical political discussions here. Like measles or like, you know, so there is certain public health exceptions where the government is obviously telling people what to do, you know?
Well, the parents have, there's a waiver though, or an exempt form for vaccinations under 3 different categories. So yes, telling people what to do, but also offering parents to, or their providers to have that freedom. I don't know if I can repeat it if any.
It's up to their parents. It's not my choice. It's up to their parents. Yeah.
I'm going to move to amend the motion and remove the words Wednesday, May 26, 2021, and insert the words Sunday, June 13, 2021 for grades 7 through 12.
Okay, say that again. I'm sorry. Not really, but.
I'm going to move to amend the motion to remove the words Wednesday, May 26, 2021, and insert the words Sunday, June 13th, 2021 for grades 7 through 12.
So for summer school.
Andy, does that make summer school eligible as mask?
Summer school.
Okay, by having that date, my question is, does that make, if that is, your amendment is passed, which I will second, and if that is passed and then the major motion is passed, does that make summer school mask optional?
That makes sense.
Summer school begins June 14th.
That's what I thought.
It makes
Okay.
mask optional for grades 7 through 12.
Right, and that is why I am seconding your amendment motion.
Thank you.
So,
But let me clarify, that means the below 7th grade are required to wear them,
Yeah.
right? Okay, just so I can understand what
Yeah,
you're.
we're continuing with that for the time being.
So one more time, you have to wear a mask at summer school if you're under 7th grade. Otherwise, optional. But the rest of the year, for the last week, we wear a mask.
Yes, that's my understanding. Yes.
so we would have no option for 4K to
4K to
6 to be
would-
without a mask, who would be the ones that would be the most prone to unsanitary daily activities like
And then
washing
you're
your
also
hands.
splitting this building, because this building's 4 through 7. So you'd have some optional, some not.
But you'll have lots of 12 to 15-year-olds potentially vaccinated. That's allowed now.
Why would the 4th and 7th grade be together?
35 days out
Because some
from
of the
when the
classes are.
vaccine became
Yeah.
eligible. Oh, the summer school does.
You're right.
Can you use the mic, please?
Give Dr. Deep the mic.
So my question is, are you looking to see if, when the kids become eligible, since they became eligible for the vaccine? Are you looking at that 35 days so that they would be completely
I
vaccinated?
believe that is correct, but I did not do the math on it. But I believe that to be correct. The number I'm really looking
Might be
at.
out for a couple of days, but yeah, that's fine.
My concern is, so in the back, actually, did you hear
Okay, maybe, would you mind repeating what your amendment was?
So that,
Give that to Mary Kate. You will repeat the amendment to make sure she has it correct.
Your amendment was to change the date, so that the motion would be consideration to recommend masks district-wide, beginning the date change June 13th, 2021 for grades 7 through 12.
So the implication of that being, for that group, we just had this conversation, younger kids would still have to wear masks, but above 7th grade, it would be optional. And this would be only applying to summer school and potentially into the school year, I guess, but we would have to readdress that at some point.
I'll stand on my previous comment that I still believe firmly in the parents making the choice for the students, and I stand in opposition to this recommendation of this amendment.
Tom?
I coordinate summer school. There are some classes where you would have a mix of kids, some that can, some that would have the option to wear the mask. There's not many, but there are some. And so that would be kind of difficult to manage. Some of the programs are designed to get the kids outside. Having to wear their masks outside, would this be including outside activity or not?
You want to address that, Julie? Is that to the mask outside? I would say not required, but
We do have students wear their masks outside when they're in close contact. The exception would be a FIAD class if they're riding bikes and they are able to maintain 6 feet. But I've also seen FIAD classes wearing their masks. So in general, yes, they're still wearing masks outside at recess, etc.
Patrick, for summer school, can we?
Yeah, I do, we haven't had a chance to talk about summer school, like in, administrative sort of session, but I do support, I think, opening up options for kids to not wear masks outdoors, because the evidence really suggests that transmission outdoors, particularly in a smaller setting, with small classes, is not as high of risk. Now, I was going to discuss that, when we have our meeting coming up to talk about that. I think that's a very reasonable thing to consider.
Jill?
Yeah. I strongly oppose restricting or limiting who can be mask optional. I'm a parent of young children, and developmental milestones, it's imperative at young ages. I feel like we're actually impeding on their learning and restricting their learning and preventing their learning from 4K to 6 by saying they can't be mask optional. So I oppose that. I would prefer to see 4K through 12 and not restrict or limit who can and can't be mask optional.
You could make a separate motion, right, after this one?
This amendment can be defeated and a new amendment can be made.
But if they're covering two separate but related timeframes, could it be two motions under the same discussion? Because we could vote on this one and then vote that up or down. And Jill, what year or time frame are you talking about? The end of this year?
I would, yes, for me, the focus would be at minimum the end of the school year before the start of summer school. For a time frame or age ranges, I wouldn't want a cutoff as to who it could include or not include.
So is that, we can have both of those? We can vote on this and then have another motion related to a different time frame?
So you were saying that you weren't opposed to the date, but you are opposed to the grade.
Right, yeah, I mean, I'm willing to be open and compromise, and I think consistency on a date would be ideal for the district and families, and I think, so yeah, if it was all-inclusive for K to 12, and the date was the same.
Yeah. I will just remind the board that you could amend the amendment, but it's a lot easier to defeat the amendment and make a new amendment.
Tom, how many people at summer school?
What was the question?
How many students do summer school, roughly?
We're probably at about 620.
At how many buildings?
Well, the main programming for elementary is at North, and then we organized programming, programming here at the middle school. And then at the high school, there's mainly credit recovery, and Mr. Mock has some Lang Lake Adventures, Lang Lake County Adventures that he's coordinating out of his classroom. So a few sessions at the high school. Most of it is at North Elementary.
How many hours
That is a change. It used to be all at the high school.
Is it all day or is it half day?
Some are, there's PM and
For
PM.
elementary, or for under 7th grade, sorry.
They're eligible to register for both a PM and a PM session.
So how late's the PM go? Like, so you could,
3 o'clock.
you could theoretically go, okay, from 7 in the
School day.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to repeat for those that may not have heard that I have made an amendment to the motion. If the amendment is defeated, someone can make a new amendment to the motion if they so choose.
I'm going to make an amendment to the amendment because I don't want to trust that that amendment's going to pass or fail. So my amendment to the amendment will read, I move the board recommend mass district-wide beginning June 13th, 2026 for the entire district. 2021, I'm sorry. Did I say 2026? Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't want to kick it that far down the road.
Read it again, please, Danny.
I move the board recommend masks district-wide beginning June 13th, 2021, district-wide.
So can we have an amendment?
Need a second.
Okay, but we had a second to that one, so does that one have to be voted down before this? No.
We don't, I didn't hear the second to Danny's.
This one first.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
I think I need a visual aid to follow.
No, basically.
Okay, the one that's written right here, I move the board recommend mass district-wide beginning Wednesday, May 26, 2021.
Okay, so that has been changed.
The original one. Why don't we just vote on that and then?
No, because you have amendments on there. You have a first order amendment and a second order amendment.
Okay,
you
so
vote
what
on
are
the
we
second-
voting on?
You have to vote on the second order amendment. If the second order amendment passes, then you go to the first order amendment, then you go to the main motion.
Okay, so the
Then you vote on
second
the whole
order amendment is yours that you just read.
Yes,
ma'am.
So say it again, if his passes, it's,
That's what
then we
it is.
vote on the main motion. That's the motion that we'd be voting on if his passes.
I think you got to vote on both of them, but
Yeah.
my amendment is amended, and then.
So that would be the
we would
first
accept.
order of business right now is his amendment.
Correct.
And then you go to Andy's.
So
Then you
even if
go to
his
the-
passes,
then
we
you
still vote
the
on
main
the
motion, then you vote on the whole item as.
Dr. Deep, one more time, if,
Yeah, if his passes, it really means that mine's amended and has now become his,
Right.
but we have to pass that to make it, the
Same
original
policy.
amendment become
Yes.
his.
Yes.
Are we agreed on
What are we
that?
voting?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Not many people in the parliament.
Andy, got just a point of information. There are 2 summer school sessions that begin before June 14th, Survivor, and there's an equine leadership class. So they're the 9th, 10th, and the 11th.
Would those largely be outside, Tom?
Certainly the equine one is, that's at Blackhawk. The skills. Survivor is usually different challenges that they do. Some could be outside, some could be inside.
So Tom, I'll just say that part of my original amendment was based on when kids would have the opportunity, if they chose or their parents chose, to get the vaccine. And that's why I chose that date. Okay. Any further discussion on the second amendment?
I just want to question Tom, is that going to cause confusion? Should this pass, or should I change that date to June the 4th, right after graduation and school's closed?
I think you already have a second order here, so. you got to-
Yeah, but I can change my own
No.
motion.
No.
It's now,
I can change my own amendment.
It's now business of the house, so you can't.
Yes, I can. Because I made the amendment, I could change that date according to parliamentary procedure, because I was the one that made the amendment. And then the person who seconded it will have to second it if they choose to. I just don't want to cause confusion for Tom and the summer school staff.
Well, that would be your decision that you want to change that.
Tom, did you say the first date was June 9th?
Is that a Wednesday?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll second it, Danny, if you make it.
I will change that date from June the 13th to June the 9th.
And I will second.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Then, Mary Kay, we will do a roll call, and please read it one more time.
Thank you.
Motion is, I move the board recommend masks recommend masks district-wide beginning June 9th, 2021 for the entire district. Motion was by Danny, second by Dave.
Okay. And we'll do the roll call, and Bailey will make sure she gives everybody the mics.
I go on the inside, Bill.
Go on the inside.
It'll be quicker for you.
Maddox Nelson?
Yes.
Neufeld?
Yes.
Hyatt?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Bartle?
Yes?
Deep?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. And so that passes the, so now we'll go on to voting on the First Amendment.
That being Danny's.
Which was what you made, right?
As I need, but it's been amended to what Danny has said. And so any further discussion on that?
Clarify what a yes and a no vote means.
A no is voting to continue requiring masks.
For this.
A yes vote will mean that masks are recommended
Approved.
district-wide
That's the second order.
starting June 9th.
Correct. Okay, just making sure so that everybody knows.
Say it one more time, I'm sorry.
A yes vote means it's what we just
No, wait,
voted
what
yes
are the,
for.
what is the amendment? What is?
The amendment is that masks will be recommended starting June 9th, district-wide.
Yes.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Can we bring your motion back if this fails?
If this fails, you don't bring my amendment back, you could make a different amendment to the original motion. Any other discussion or comments, questions?
So to make Danny's amendment that we just approved 8-0, we have to vote yes to your amendment 8-0 or 5-3 to make it, Danny's amendment, go forward to our original, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
We're voting on this, and then we're going to re-vote.
That's what I made
original
sure.
motion. Okay, any further questions or comments?
No. Say that one more time, Dave. This is now our motion. Well, Danny's motion is the motion we are voting on right here.
Yes.
Yes.
It's
If it
a motion
passes-
to the amendment. So this is a motion to amend.
So we have to do this 3 times?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Are we good? Mary Kay will do a roll call again.
Newfeld,
Yeah. Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Pardo,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes. And now we'll go back to the original motion, which, if you would read that back, Mary Kay, as amended.
It's the same language.
It
It's
should
the
be
same
the
exact
thing.
language we've been voting on.
Okay,
Just read it back one more
Just
time.
for the
Over
record.
mic.
okay. Consideration to recommend masks district-wide beginning June 9th, 2021 for the entire district. Motion by Danny, seconded by Dave.
No, actually, this is whoever made the original motion and seconded it.
The
And I made the original motion,
And
Jill
Yes.
seconded it.
Okay, all right. Okay, hopefully we don't have any questions here. We'll just go right to the roll call vote.
Hyatt,
Yes.
Schrader,
No.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Pardo,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes? Okay, we are going back.
Thank you so much for moving that up, Mr. President.
Just a minute, Mr. President. I see Logan and Ellie have been sitting here for an hour and 45 minutes. I don't think introducing the valedictorian and the salutatorian is going to take could we let
Okay.
them go home?
Yes.
Agreed.
You want to go home, guys?
Everybody agreed to
Yeah.
that? Everybody agreed?
Yes.
Thank you, David.
Okay, so we're going to go to new business, item E, recognition of class of 2021 valedictorian and salutatorian, and if you would please come forward. I'll leave you on it. Step over here.
Where's the microphone? Her mom's recording and dad recording.
I got it too, Jill.
Where's the mic? Here you go.
Kelly, I'd like to congratulate you on being valedictorian for the class of 2021. A great achievement. And Logan, I would like to congratulate you on being salutatorian for the class of 2021. Also a great achievement. Best of luck to both of you in the coming years.
Ellie, did you win?
Yes, 15-0.
You know, I'll give you just a minute each if you want to make a speak.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you for this award. I did not know I was going to be getting one of these tonight. Thank you to all the community members because without your support and helping me on my learning journey, I probably wouldn't be up here today. You've all probably helped me in some small way. So, thank you to everyone here, and, yeah, that's all I have to say.
I guess I'm just honored to receive Salutatorian and want to thank everyone that's helped me along on my journey through high school and my next steps towards life.
Thank you, that was just a little warm-up for Sunday.
I'm going mass. Oh, you're both going to mass. Yay!
Okay.
Sorry, I just thought that was easy.
Thank you, Mary, for moving that up.
Mary, why didn't you move that up an hour ago?
Okay, we're going back to item 5A, discussion with Nick from CISA 9, Associate Director of Wisconsin Resource Center for Charter Schools. And
Nick, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Andy, we might need a 5-minute
Have you
break.
been sitting there listening to this the whole time?
Yes.
hey, Nick, you've been being really patient, but I think we're going to have you wait 5 more minutes because we've been in a meeting here for a while, and some people would like a little break. So 5 minutes. Why did you vote no?
I've done it. Thank you. Thanks for your patience. Timmy, what was your guess? What was your guess, Nick?
Well, I was 8:30.
You are the oldest.
No one ever comes. We have all these guys. I was in the tractor, so I couldn't see any people. I couldn't see all of us. Could you hear 2 weeks ago, or there was? Could you hear me talking on the phone? Yes. It's better right here.
I also thought that the article was very good. No, I didn't. You've done so much.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll find it. Sorry. No, you're fine. You're, I think you up on that.
Okay, good. You tell me your favorites.
I did. I saw you there. You look like the only person I recognized. You were around back when I drove up.
Yeah. Yeah, we came out to buy this weird, just went for a drive to the house. Molly took the kids with her to her house and did the stuff in the car. And the kids were in the car and I said, well, there's this surprise.
Oh, yeah, because one of my pictures.
Get the virus started, then they supply all the stuff to take care of it.
You're surprised
I was.
because
Isn't that crazy? You can't even make a package of alcohol.
like fun. Yeah.
He is. The back hole.
I should have,
Then you did it again?
you should have.
I didn't know. Where? Well.
I love you.
They have
One of those advertisements.
I'm trying. I'm definitely gonna have to go back.
So how do you like to do?
I'm used to it. I get a lot of compliments on the shape of my head.
So you're Sinead O'Connor?
Yeah.
Remember when she said?
It
Compares to you, thank you.
I know, I sent Sandy Robert to
And
Snapchat.
she was so, when she sang that, I think you should.
Yeah, I will.
Thursday morning.
Yeah, I'm used to it. I ordered a wig too, but I don't know
Oh,
if I'll
did you?
wear it.
Is it similar to your original hair?
It's like bigger curls and it's like blondish.
Okay.
I don't know, I haven't seen it.
I always, when I get a haircut, I just want long, blonde, straight extensions. But
I would like a little bit relaxed.
that never happened. Yeah.
So curly on top.
Okay.
Hi, Aim. Is it appropriate for me to be like, hi, buddy, do you remember me?
Yeah.
I went to college together.
Oh, I already told you.
Oh, did you?
So, well, that's all I do. You should be up here where he can see you and see. Recognizes you.
Better left that.
If not, I'll call him.
Okay.
I was going to say something to him. The school teacher. I was going to text him today and I didn't. I just learned recently that she's prom. Is her baby down right now? Yes, at our very own high school.
5 minutes are up.
Yep.
Because like when I looked at your, I'm like,
We're ready to go.
I took up your 30 seconds you had.
And then we did talk to 20 minutes. Yes. Sure.
So I'm going to leave the mic off. If anybody still has problems hearing us, please let us know. And Nick, we're sorry for the delay, but you're up now.
Yeah, no worries. I'm gonna share my screen and just see if people can see it, I guess. We'll see here. Are people able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Perfect. So my name again is Nick Bertaski. I'm the Associate Director for the Wisconsin Resource Center for Charter Schools. It's an honor, pleasure to be here to answer some of the questions that were provided to me. Our Resource Center is based out of CISA 9, but we're also a statewide office and we serve all 233 charter schools, but all 400 plus school districts in the conversations around charter schools. We're close partners with DPI and we provide all technical assistance and sort of professional development around what is a charter school and what is not. Before I kind of answer the questions that were provided to me though, I do really want to make sure that you all know what I'm not, and I'm not necessarily a charter advocate. That's not my job, is to try to sell you on starting a charter school. My job is really to be a listener to a school district, answer questions, provide the law and as much accurate information as we can, and help you make a decision on whether or not a charter school could fit a scenario or not. The sheet that I have, I think it was provided in your board packet. Have people seen this before?
Yes.
Okay. So what I did is I basically attached the slides to each of the questions that were asked, and so what I'm going to do is just use those slides to very quickly, in the next 15 minutes, just sort of cover these questions. I'm going to plow through. Anybody's welcome to interrupt me, but I did want to leave questions then at the end. Is that a fair way to proceed?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Appreciate you. Perfect. So the first question is, what is a charter school? And then sort of part A to that was the difference between public charter schools, independent charter schools, virtual charter schools. And so going back to this slideshow, A public charter school is a non-sectarian school that's created through a business-like contract. That's where the word charter comes from. It's basically a contract between a governing board and an authorizer. Here's the diagram that explains it, I think, probably the best. The contract is at the center. So any of the agreements, can we do this, can we not do that, what is the school obligated to do, what is the authorizer obligated to do, it's spelled out in the charter contract. Autonomy is given to charter schools. Autonomy over some of the financial decisions, some of staffing decisions, program, calendar, school start times, policies, but the autonomies that are given need to be spelled out in the contract. And then, well, what is the charter school giving back to the authorizer? Those are the results. That they could be student learning, it could be financial performance, or other pieces of operational expectations. Also clearly spelled out in the contract. So the authorizer still has oversight and control over that charter school through the measures that are spelled out in that contract. Very quickly, the difference kind of between district authorized and independently authorized charter schools, all charter schools are public, but some are authorized. If I go back to this slide, this black circle, the authorizer, sometimes is a school district, and sometimes it's a different legal entity in our state that's authorizing the school to open. So going back to this, in your case, you're talking or thinking about a district authorized charter school. They can be in two different ways. You as a school district could authorize a charter school in a business-like contract, and they could serve as an instrument of your district, which means all HR services, hiring, employee handbook, benefits are all done through the school district in a very similar manner. Or you can authorize a charter school as a non-instrumentality, which means all of that HR benefits, handbook, all of that employee work is put on the governance board, which is this blue circle, is put on that governing body and not on the authorizer. An independently authorized charter school is just a charter school that's not authorized by a school district. Those entities that can authorize that are not school districts are clearly spelled out in state statute. I have listed them in here. I won't cover all of them, but they are still public. They're just run by or authorized by a non-school district. The governance is still the other side of that contract. To finish that question off, the virtual charter school can only be a charter school that's authorized by a school district, and it just has the expectation that those students are 100% virtual. It also is by state statute, except for a revision for 1 year next year, it is the only way that a district can serve an open enrolled student 100% virtually is through the window of a charter school. Again, for the 2021-2022 academic school year, the legislature has made an adjustment to that where you can serve other district students 100% virtually as a reaction to the pandemic. So the next question was in regards to what is the application process? Is there money involved, planning grants? That's slide 5 and 6 in your packet, and so I'll cover that here. Really, the idea is your charter school should start with a need, like what is currently not happening that community members, the district, the school board, leadership sees, and they would like to create a school around that. There is and then you would create a design team, and they would apply, they would apply to the authorizer. So this group, and it could be done through the window of the board, but really kind of thinking through what is this school going to do, what is this school's not. The authorizer has say on whether or not the charter school can happen. DPI just looks over the contract and makes sure it meets state statute. It's not a DPI decision on whether or not the charter school can open. It's an authorizer decision. The grant comes in right here. After there's an authorizer, there is money available at DPI where that group, the governing board, could apply for funding. I also just put in here a link. This is our model application process. So if you were thinking as an authorizer, sure, we'd be open to have a charter school and entertain it. What questions should we ask? We put together a model application of the kinds of questions you should be asking any group of people that would want to start a charter school to help you make a decision on if it's in the best interest for your district or not. That role is sort of the authorizer again, in a contract with the governance board. The governance board oversees that school, and then maybe there's contracts separately with the authorizer, maybe there's other outside service contracts with that charter school. And then the DPI grant is available. It's up to $900,000 over the course of 5 years. You do not need to get the grant or even apply for the grant to open a charter school. Charter schools open without the money, but it is available to new implementing charter schools here. In this case, if it's a new charter school, we'd be talking about the top boxes, the implementation. Charter schools that have been around can either replicate or expand and apply for that. Really quickly, the next question in your packet was around why would we charter? Like, what are the benefits? Well, really it comes down to you as a district. Does that need that you spelled out fit your portfolio? Is that what you want to do? Your mission and vision as a school district, is that need not currently being addressed? Then does a charter school make sense to address it? I do have a document in here linked for charter school case studies from charter schools around the state. Why districts decided to authorize a charter school. You're welcome to look at that. But here are the 6 big ones. People use them as innovation centers. If you have an idea in a district, a big one right now is sort of competency-based learning, moving to like standards-driven rather than seat-based time. Well, doing it at a whole district level seems like a big endeavor. Starting it in a small school or in a charter and then disseminating out that knowledge as an incubator could make sense. Sometimes there's subgroups that are not learning, so we want to design a charter school specifically for the needs of that particular area. With autonomy comes accountability, so if there's a piece that the school board, or in this case an authorizer, really wants more accountability, is willing to give the autonomy, but really wants more accountability around some performance measures, that is a reason, especially around finances, or if there's a particular school that you're thinking about maybe closing just because of financial situations and you sort of want to consolidate, well, maybe turning that into a charter school, putting the onus of the financial burden on that governing board could be a reason. So it goes into that financial sustainability, as well as sometimes very specifically designed charter schools would bring in not just your open enrolled students, because that seems a little bit more competitive. It's more about your homeschooled students. Students that have decided not to attend your school district for a variety of reasons by that family. Maybe a specifically designed charter school would bring some of those families back. Community connection, many times we talk to smaller school districts. There are community businesses or organizations. I don't know if that's the case in Antico, but they don't feel connected to the school district, but they would get behind a specifically designed charter school that brings in more community partners that don't feel that maybe their needs or their interests have been at the center before. And then lastly, family and student choice. Lots of districts want to have multiple options for their students. We've seen that during the pandemic. A lot of districts now are just going back to face-to-face, but some districts are saying, we want to keep a hybrid. Maybe that would be a charter. We want to keep a fully virtual option. You can do that without it being a charter. That the difference would be we want to spell all that out into contract, and we want to hold a group of people accountable around what that looks like. Those are the typical reasons why. Just a little navigation on jumping out here. I'll look at your document really quickly again. So how are they set up? We sort of covered that, the purpose of the charter school, the benefits, and then the requirements of the school versus a charter. Just want to show this slide here just to give you an idea of, from a parent's point of view, parent choice is up here. They want to choose the public option. Then you have resident school district, you have open enrollment, independently authorized, are all public. Then we're looking at your school district as go inside your school district. You might have legacy, kind of your neighborhood schools. You might have other programs. Then maybe you have authorized charter schools. That's sort of how it fits. It's underneath the umbrella of the school district. Non-public, because I know there's some questions in your document about voucher. Just remember, voucher is not on this side of the house. It's on the non-public option. There are different laws, different statutes that basically regulate your involvement with those vouchers, just as there's different laws. Typically, our district authorized charter schools operate similarly as the other buildings in the district, except for that's spelled out in contract. Who can initiate a charter school was, I think, one of the final questions. And these four are what it says in state statute. But I think in this case, you're really looking at if a community is interested in presenting to the board about opening a charter school or using one of your buildings in your district to start a charter school, or it can be initiated by the district. The school board can decide to find a community group to open this charter school because for a variety of conversations that have been happening in and out of the discussions at board meetings. There's a couple other slides in here just showing you the flow of accountability. Charter schools are held to a high degree of accountability. Even though they're given the autonomy, they still have to meet federal law, state law, and then anything that's in that contract has to happen. And then the governing board would have their own bylaws, policies, and procedures that they would have to have transparent. They still have to do all state testing. They still have to have licensed teachers in all the rooms. And they still have to follow educator effectiveness. So a lot of those things that we come to know in public are still regulated by state law for our charter schools as well. Last slide here. Well, are a lot of districts doing this work nationally and locally? The number one group of people that authorizes charter schools are school districts. That's no different than here in Wisconsin. As you're seeing this link come up here, here's current DPI facts on that. We have 229 charter schools currently in our state, and 203 of them are authorized by districts. So the majority of, large majority of our charter schools are authorized by school districts in our state. And if you want to, last link is, you can go see all the charter schools in our state. Here's our yearbook. You're able to search by area, geographic region, kinds of schools, authorizers, CSPA, however you want to search charter schools. But this is just a nice map for you to see that charter schools are located all over the state. A larger percentage of them are in the southeast. That is sort of it to answer your questions that were in the document. I did want to leave a little bit of time now if you wanted to ask any questions.
How do we talk to the mic, or is it
Just
talk loud? Can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Can we authorize them for religious instruction in our authorizing charter, or like what's the limits on that? Because like in a normal history class, like they taught us about Islam and Christianity, and so what's the, in a public school, so what's the line there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And that relatively clearly spelled out when you're using the history and social studies standards, like if it's spelled out in there on just a general coverage. But if it is being implemented as practice and not as information, and it's starting to be, you're practicing that particular religion, or it becomes part of the daily schedule, now we're starting to cross lines. Or if you're using that religion to impose a belief structure, then you're also starting to come like, so a charter school cannot be a religious school in our state. Obviously, a voucher school could be a religious school, but not charter.
Is there a limit on how many teachers you have, or could it be like 2 teachers and they each teach a bunch of grades?
Yeah, no limit in terms of how big a charter school or how small. I think our smallest charter school in the state has 8 students. And I think, some of our largest are 1,800 students. So not a size. When we're talking teachers, though, they do have to be adequately licensed, right? So if they are teaching a large grade range, the license would have to match up so that they're considered highly qualified through WISE reporting, just like we would do with any of our legacy schools in your district.
And the contracting can involve things like we wouldn't bus anybody or something like that. That's legal to say no busing to the charter?
Yeah, so charter schools are waived from almost all of the state statutes 115 to 121. Transportation is one of them. So if in the contract you say that transportation is not happening at that particular charter school, by law you do not have to transport students to a charter school.
What was the policy reason for not allowing religious charter schools?
Not allowing religious charter schools?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's the, I mean, why, what was the, I assume it was some sort of political argument, but I don't understand the.
Yeah, I mean, I think in basic, just the separation of church and state, it's public tax dollars in a public situation. I recognize the voucher's kind of unique, but Wisconsin's very unique in that situation. You know, not an expert, I wasn't in the room when they made that, but it does specifically state, and I put the statute in your notes for you, it does specifically state that it has to be, you know, non-religion, not sectarian.
Got any questions?
No, that's pretty clear. That's pretty much how I read it. I think in the future, years from now, there was a case in Montana that just went through the court system where you're gonna see, because what's happening now is with charter schools, it's almost, by not letting them bring religion into it and have a charter school, a Christian charter school, it's actually a constitution breakage they're finding now. But that's years down the road. You're going to see this as things get pushed out. That's not something that's going to happen now. No, I mean, he's pretty clear. He's dead on to what I understand with charter schools.
Yeah, that's where we are right now in the state. You know, I can assure you, I think there's some virtual charter schools that have kind of a very, they allow parents to sort of help decide on what some of the text and resources that those students are using. So I think that's maybe where we start to see some religious things get in. DPI tries to look at that, but I'm sure it doesn't happen, you know, to the level of fidelity that even they wish. I know the Montana situation. I could see that. I do think our state, I mean, this is only opinion. Nobody's paying me for this necessarily, but we've opened ourselves up for that because we have voucher. We are using public dollars for private. So I could see us seeing that, but you're right. That is not any time probably while I'm in this position.
So Nick, on slide number 8, you had a link in there on your presentation, Wisconsin Charter School Case Studies.
Yeah.
I don't see that on the link on the presentation that we have. Is there information in it that would give us more information about the case studies?
Yeah,
I'm
I'm sure that's not in there. That's weird that you don't have that. This is what the document looks like, and I can drop it into the chat now too. If there's a way someone could print that out to you, I definitely want to make this available. Really what the case studies is different districts, school districts from around the state identified a specific need that was not being addressed. Right. It spells out the need very clearly. It actually starts with a community near you. This is Northland Pines. Really specific, spells out the need, what priority areas they had, the school type, and the district size, and then what the solution was. And each of the solutions was a charter school specifically designed to meet that need. Again, you can meet the needs of students without charter, right? So this is not my Music Man speech of like, oh yeah, then you're gonna need a charter school if you have needs. Well, no, we've got needs all over the place. We can be very creative around that. This is just a case study to demonstrate how some communities have used charter. What's the best way for me to make sure that you have this?
Nick, if you email it to me, this is Julie, I'll forward it to the board.
Perfect. I'll email that to you after I get off this call.
You know what would be funny, Nick? Shepherd's Watch is already involved with the Wisconsin Institute of Law and Liberty. If we authorized a religious charter school and DPI denied it, I'm sure they'd be happy to file the lawsuit and take it to the Supreme Court. It's exactly up their alley.
Yeah, maybe. Right? Or if you did authorize a school for DPI to come in and say you can't do that, which is what would happen. That could create an that could.
Well, that wasn't discussed, but that could happen.
He'd probably like that.
Well, I don't know for so much for that, but you will. I mean, we're all sitting here and we're seeing changes that are coming down through the public school system, and we're losing kids to Christian schools because of some of the things that the public school system is teaching now. Nothing against the people that are sitting around here. So I don't think the public school system numbers are going to go up. They're probably going to hold their own or go down. So we build around that. I mean, that's just how I see it. I mean, that's just factual.
Okay. Okay, I think.
Can I ask a clarifying question that might help?
Okay.
Nick, you said earlier regarding, so I worked over at Maple Grove when it was an instrumentality of Merrill charter school and EL school. And you had talked earlier, I just want the board to understand so once these charter monies potentially run out, the idea is that the board, the governance board, is gonna be able to sustain the school by contract, right? How does the board protect itself? Because that's the problem we got into was they didn't raise the money. The school board, the school had to take on a lot of the cost then until then I left and we know it's going to Athens now. But can you give some ideas of how that contract would be built if they were to protect themselves?
Yeah, so the funding, the grants is really designed to build the capacity, right, to get the school to where it needs to be. It's not designed for sustaining costs, so you're absolutely right with that. Where the money comes from to operate the school, our operational dollars are coming from per pupil dollars, very similar to how your current district schools are being funded. In the contract, though, you get to determine how much of those per pupil dollars that are generated from local and state revenue streams, how much of that goes to that governing board, how much that goes to that school. Is it all of it? Is it a fraction of it? Do they get all of it? They're buying back some services from you? That's what sort of gets worked out. Then I would recommend, if I was working with you, to consult in terms of very clear in your contract what it means to be a financial burden or what it means not to, and after X amount of years or 1 year, you get to determine that is a burden to you, then that would be a reason for revocation, reason for closure of your charter school. The onus goes on that governing board. And I think sometimes where there's been a little bit difficulty with that is when it wasn't clear in a contract on what that dollar amount is, or what that per pupil, or what that number of students needs to be, in order to stay afloat.
Thank you.
Okay, I think unless people have more pressing questions, we're going to move on. Nick, we got a lot of stuff in our agenda.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, have a good night.
You do.
Thank you.
Can't believe you didn't want to watch the end of our meeting.
Okay, we're going to move along. We're going to go to item B, approve committee of the whole minutes from May 11th.
I move the board approve the committee of the whole minutes from May 11, 2021.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item C, review policies, the 1000s, the administration. As always, just kind of wanted people to be able to look these over. If they had questions, certainly you could send questions to Julie, or you can address them here. Anything? Okay, we'll move on to item D. Timing for posting agenda. It's a discussion. This has come up. A couple people have suggested that our agenda should be posted sooner. And then I think that part of the discussion should be what gets posted. I know Mary Kay, you have looked into whether or not our documents can be posted. Maybe you could explain the difference between public and administrative.
Separately. Right now, the way that I have the attachments coming, it's through the administrative content, and that's just you guys and administrators. If you want public access to those, I'd have to put them into a public content. My question is, what information do you want the public to have at the same time you get them? Or do you want it separate?
It could be at separate times, like we could get it on Thursday and they could get it on Tuesday, the day of the meeting, for example, correct?
I'd have to, every week I'd have to go in and reallocate who gets the public, or when it's public and when it's...
Well, is it possible to only make stuff administrative that relates to what would be private that we couldn't share? Otherwise, we could share everything else. Personnel and, so because sometimes we publish salary information, so would you
Public
call that
salary.
personnel?
That's a public record, isn't it, the salaries? I don't know, I got the feeling that
people were complaining that they didn't get something about too late for the Friday paper, how are they supposed to know what the agenda was? Danny forwarded it, the agenda. I don't know, do we need to get it out sooner?
Well, I think to speak to Andy's point, the public versus administrative, I do think you have worked that out because it's very unlikely that the public would go to board docs public to see the agenda. They'll look where it's posted or read it in the paper. Jill had an idea to post it on Facebook, which I think is a good idea. So I think that's where the public goes to see just the agenda more so than the attachments.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't need to see the attachments that go to us and to the administrators. There's reasons for that. But what they need to see is everything that's on the left side of this screen I'm looking at. And so the question I have is, why can't we have it in Friday's paper?
Now that the journal is printed 3 days a week, submissions for Friday have to be in on Wednesday. And we scramble, we do our best, but like Nick, he's a partner, of course, but his information, if you notice, didn't come until yesterday. So that he was on the agenda, but the attachments weren't uploaded in time. So to get everything, to finalize the agenda, especially for the business office, I think would be tough. Now, we did have a speaker tonight say that she read it in the paper. So it's always in a day in advance, always.
So I don't think Dave was asking for all the attachments, so
No.
Dave was on the agenda regardless for
It's
tonight.
just that left side.
Yeah.
And we get to, it's like the first meeting I came to, Dr. Deep had to show me how to get in. I know you did too, but how to get in and so that I could see the attachments, because we have a login.
So you don't, you
So
supposed
the
to get
people
a,
don't need to see
All
that.
he's asking for is an earlier publication of the agenda.
Yeah.
For the agenda to
Yes,
be
the
put out in
straight
Friday's
agenda that's on the
newspaper.
left side of our screen.
so then it would have to be up to,
So,
they'd have to have the topic.
Julie, if it's
Yeah.
because the business
Wednesday,
office, if it
It's
doesn't
easy,
work,
simple.
I know Mary Kay told me she tries to get it out on Fridays to us. Well, if you get it to the journal on Friday, it'll be in Monday's paper.
Right, and that's what.
So
we've been
that's,
doing.
that would be fine with me.
But Dave, I think some of the public that I'm hearing, they don't see the agenda until Monday, and they have other things going on that they can't change to get here for Tuesday. So their opinion is they'd like to see it on Friday, so that way they have the whole weekend to see the agenda to be able to make a decision to come.
Yeah.
I think earlier is always better for transparency for the community.
Have you forwarded them to the website? It's there, when you get it emailed, it's on the website.
On Friday.
On
On
Friday.
Friday, and I
Yeah.
think
But there are
if
some
you're saying
people
you want to
that-
put it on social media, as Jill suggested, that would be there on Friday.
There are some
Right.
people that have talked to me that they don't have a computer. They don't even do anything on the computer. They rely upon that newspaper. And so we can't just always assume that everybody's got the computer, you know?
Can't we just put it in the paper, if you get it to them Wednesday and just
Yeah.
put agendas subject to change? I
You
mean-
can't, because you have to post 24
Yeah, but it's
hours.
amended and.
To clarify, it's not necessarily the agenda items that make it a struggle to get it printed in the Friday newspaper, it's the attachments.
So we don't need the
Correct?
attachment.
Well, that, and
But
we
for the
do,
most
yeah, we do change, I mean, the agenda changes between Mary Kay and,
We
you know.
could always
working.
republish though, correct? If
You
we had
could
a
We can
change.
repost.
My only concern is that if you repost, and say you add something in on Friday,
Something controversial, then it's gonna look like, hey, you added that in late.
yeah, it's looking like you're trying to sneak that in.
I think there's a perception that it looks like we're trying to withhold access currently. So I'm sharing that to just say either, that argument could essentially go both ways,
Okay.
whatever timeline.
Yeah. That was my only concern.
If you get it out on Facebook on Friday, I mean, that's gonna hit a lot of people too.
Right.
we don't usually have that much that people care about. So if they want to care, good for them, they can come watch us, but I'm not opposed to trying to get it in the paper earlier at all, if you guys can make it work. It
So-
just take some adjustments in your life.
Rachel, I'm just gonna ask for it to be in the paper on Friday. What's the absolute drop-dead deadline for us?
So we actually talked about this today. I talked about it with my editor because I had seen posts on Facebook about it not meeting deadline, and I assumed that it would be talked about. The absolute latest that we could have it would be 1 o'clock on Wednesday. We just need to have time for it to be in the system. Generally, like things in the system the day before, so they can all be proofread by the editor. And so that was his recommendation, that the latest we could do would be Wednesday at 1 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. Is it reasonable, Julie, that we would try a couple meetings here to see if we can get this done? Or is that?
I think it adds an unnecessary burden when it's posted where it should be and they have a full day's notice. I agree we should try the Facebook thing. And of course I take offense to the perception that we're not transparent, but that's just my job. I want to be fully transparent. And I don't understand how rushing to meet a 1 o'clock deadline on Wednesday increases our transparency. I just think it adds stress.
Especially if you're going to add other agenda items or anything. Maybe a clear explanation of why we publish it on Friday.
Okay. But the bulk of the agenda is formed at our committee of the whole, 2 weeks prior to. Right? We move things, the bulk, I'm not saying all of it, but the bulk of the agenda for our board meeting is formed at the committee of the whole. I can see the committee of the whole being a problem because, that's issues that's coming to y'all's attention to bring to us. But the board meeting at the end of the month, that agenda is what's put forward mostly from the committee of the whole.
So you're proposing 2 different dates posted in the paper?
I just don't see the problem of having the 1 o'clock Wednesday deadline.
So now if I'm posting for the Friday before the meeting, I have to post next Wednesday for our
Committee of the whole.
committee of the whole.
So I respect Dr. Sprague that it's more stress on your staff, and I don't participate in the agenda items discussion, so that's helpful feedback. And to clarify, are we talking, it could still be posted when it is, but also added to social media platforms Friday, so to at least have one avenue of increased access? Okay.
And maybe some clarity about why
Why it
the
can't be.
administration posts this on Friday, just, maybe whenever the minutes of the discussion about this meeting happens, maybe something that the administration can put a paragraph in there saying, that we discussed this for so and so reasons and why you're publishing it on Friday. And it's because of, unfortunately, living in a small town and having the newspaper change their publishing. So I think if you do that, and if people are watching and commenting on Facebook, I'm quite sure that if you posted it on Facebook on Friday, they should be able to look at that. And if you still get complaints about it in the future that, they want it earlier, then we'll have to look at it. But if you can describe the logistics of not being able to do that on Wednesday, people will understand.
But if you do it on Friday, to all the places that you normally do, and send it also to the paper, it'll be in Mondays.
Yeah, and it always has been.
Yeah. But I think people want
They want,
extra
they
3
want
days.
it, they want it back to
Well,
Friday.
probably then, if you had the Saturday paper, maybe we need to have them move it to the Saturday from the newspaper instead of Friday.
I mean,
And
we
then
have a
people would get the
Saturday
weekend.
newsletter that it could get posted in, but that's only electronic, it does not get printed at all. So that would be in between if people don't have computers and only rely on the paper.
Andy, my apologies. The light came on when Mary Kay just said the deadline just came on, so I'll retract what I said. I'm sorry, I should have thought about that, that Wednesday, you'll be posting next Wednesday for the committee of the whole. So adding this to Facebook would be a step too.
Okay, so do we have a consensus that for right now,
Leave
we're
it
going to
at-
add it to Facebook? Rachel, we're going to try to make sure you get it so it can go in Monday's paper, which I think we've been doing.
Yeah, it's always came on.
So that's our consensus for now, and for right now, the consensus is those attachments,
They're ours.
nobody else needs to see those for right
They're
now.
ours.
Can I? So, watching a lot of board meetings from the YouTube link, it was really beneficial when the discussion that now I know as a board member had an attachment was provided on the screen. And I've also attended and watched meetings where the attachments are not available on the screen, so anybody watching the meeting online or in person, it's really hard to follow that discussion because you don't have anything to reference, and I have numbers, you hear numbers or pages, but I'm just curious with the attachment discussion, if that fits here of when it can be included on the screen behind me and when it couldn't.
Do we have to get you a board doc and then you could share your screen?
I could go through it on that screen. The only time that an attachment currently is on the screen is when somebody is presenting in the Google Meet.
So when you saw that we were
The
all
Google
online,
So like the continuous improvement plan, and when the administrators, that was the most recent, not most recent, but the one that comes to mind of what I watched, that was a presentation. But I feel like based off memory, there were a few others. I could be wrong, I watched a lot of meetings online, so I'm just, the agenda's posted without attachments, and I don't know what would be within reason or not to include during the meeting, so I just thought I'd throw it out there. I found it really helpful, though, watching online when I could better understand what was being discussed, yes.
is it possible to split screen between the attachment and like us, or maybe they don't care what we look like then?
Yeah, right now, basically, if there's a speaker like tonight for the speaker, I just had it just him basically. So what everybody in the live stream saw was what you folks saw on the screen. There's a bunch of ways to do it.
Because I guess I have no idea how that works at all. So you broadcast direct to YouTube, and whatever is on your screen goes, or it?
Well, right now I have two different options. I can either go off the camera, or I can go off of whatever is on that screen, which is what's on the laptop. We can change that to basically show a number of different things. It's very flexible as far as that goes. So if there are any suggestions or ideas, I'm happy to help with that.
Well, that's helpful to know, Dustin. I think what we can do then before the next meeting is talk to you about attachments that we feel would be important to zero in on for the public and make those
Easier for you if, like, when Tim presented an attachment, if he pulled it up and paged to the right page, so you didn't, unless you really want to pay such diligent attention to exactly what slide he's on. Is that, so, because what you said, whatever's on that screen, you could show.
Yep, and beyond that, if it needed to. But yeah, that's the easiest.
Or when we were looking at an attachment, that would mean one of the rest of us would have to pull it up on that screen anyway, so maybe it'd be just easier.
For right now, can we just say that we'll direct administration to look into putting more documents on the screen? Is that agreeable to everybody?
And just one other thing, when he brought up that nobody can hear anything, for 3 years when I was the union president, I attended every meeting. You could never hear anything in here, even in the mediatheque, and it's kind of frustrating, even though your initial reaction when you come in is to sit in the back. It's like church. You go in, you sit in the back. But even in the front, and even like sometimes with you guys, I don't hear well when I'm wearing a mask. My ears don't work as good. And I don't know, is there a way to have one microphone for each side of the table or something?
I know one time, long time ago before, as I was attending the meetings, just as a community member, the board would sit in a circle this way in this room, and each one had their own microphone in front of them.
For each two.
No,
I mean, there'd be a mic between.
I thought that was at the high school.
Yeah, that was at the high school.
It was at the high
here
school.
too.
Here too?
Yes, sir, it was.
So who should we be asking that question to?
I did ask this morning about microphones, and Dustin, you want to?
People are gonna
Yeah,
keep showing up.
currently we don't have the setup to
I know, I can't remember.
do that.
Here, Dustin?
Just here, yes.
But we do at
The
Media
nature
Tech.
of how we
It's
kind
easier
of threw
with
this
me, yes.
together. I was talking to Ben, and he did say that if we wanted to pursue it, it would, you know, it would cost some money, but yes, it would basically be everybody would have their own individual microphone. And basically right now, the issue is that when these microphones are used, and if we were to send it to those speakers, it would feed back into these microphones.
But if each one had their microphone, you wouldn't need these then? would you?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
But these are only for the YouTube or whatever, it's
Right.
not for the people on there.
So at Media Tech, though, at the high school, each would have a microphone again?
We would theoretically still have the microphones, so I don't know how that would affect our live stream setup.
Okay.
And if we do go into something, maybe even one laying on the table, like even when Patrick does his, and Darlene,
Exactly.
if you had a microphone there where they could talk in, and then, you know, everybody, all we keep hearing about is the word transparency, you know, it's not like we're trying to make it so nobody can hear us. I think we need to make a better effort of.
It's just technologically challenged.
Yes, yes. Okay, I'm sorry, let's go
Okay.
on.
So I think we're just, another one, we're directing to administration to look into this
I brought that up.
and see what we can do about it.
Okay. You said
Okay.
so.
Yeah, I'm just dumping everything.
Is the board comfortable staying here for meetings, or would they prefer the high school, or does it matter?
I like it here better.
I do too, I can walk.
I never forget where I'm going.
I can help the tech guys get one set up right. If there's a desire for here or there, it doesn't matter.
I think it's much more pleasant looking at each other than it is to look straight out, because we're talking to each other mostly.
Yeah.
I think that was the problem with the high school, is that we're all in a line,
Yeah.
and it makes it hard, and we're crowded. It's really crowded there.
It is.
Okay.
So I think we prefer this. You know, if it comes down to, we can only have mics there, well, then we'll have to talk about it again.
Do you want to show me?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, where was she?
Okay, we are done with, unless somebody has some more comments on this topic. We already did E. In 6, board action, we did A and B. And so we'll go on to C.
I move the board approve the 2021-22 4K agreements with Head Start and All Saints Catholic School as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Roll call vote?
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bartle,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes. We'll go on to item D, consideration of authorization to purchase supplies for 2021 school year.
I move the board authorize administration to begin purchasing supplies for the 2021-2022 school year not to exceed $250,000.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
In a hurry.
We haven't approved a budget for this year, and it's just a requirement to say, okay, to authorize spending. We haven't approved the budget, that's why we're asking for it. It's just typical of year we do it this time.
Yeah, happens every year, so. Once again, any discussion or questions? And a roll call.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bartle,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes. And we'll go on to item E, consideration to approve purchase of elementary school playground equipment.
I move the board approve the quote of Yes, $47,920 from Lee Recreation LLC for the purchase of elementary playground equipment.
I'll second it.
And is that, excuse me, is that for all three schools? That's the total cost for all three of the schools?
Correct.
Not the middle school?
Correct. Elementary.
So what happened when we did our consolidation and we got 4K at all of our locations? We don't have a 2 to 5 year old play feature at our schools because we never had that age group there. So really it's best practice to have that. So it's the same structure going in at all three. It's not huge, but it's enough rated for like 30 to 40 kids, which would be plenty enough for us. And
what's it look like?
I can email you a picture.
There was quite a difference between the courts though.
Yep.
One was almost double.
Yeah, when you get into the playground world, it's very hard to find an exact comparable. You know, that each manufacturer has their own style, if you will. So there's two things that I look at: the age group, and then the use zone, and then I guess three things: the number of play features within that structure. And they're not apples to apples. You can't find the exact, but you gotta find the one that best fits those parameters. And then furthermore, we've done a lot of work with Lee Recreational over the years, and those relationships go a long ways. They know what they're coming into. They understand what they're going to be asked to do for the install, things of that nature. They feel very comfortable. And this particular one, Lee Recreational, runs a blow-out model every year. This one normally would cost approximately $30,000 more than the goal. So it would fall right in line, but they have it on a clearance deal. So.
Do we still get complaints about not enough swings at the middle school? Or we?
Nope, we solved that. I should say for Amy, but.
So, Jake,
we doubled them last year.
There's a lot of swings out there.
So I was going along Dr. Deep's inquiry, and I think you answered it. It's the price differences that we're getting the blowout item.
Basically, yeah, they'd still be a little bit low because their install cost is lower than the competitors, but they'd be a lot closer. Yeah.
So my initial thought was, what's our compromise? But it doesn't sound like we're compromising.
No.
Okay, thank you.
And I did sit down with all three elementary principals and go through a number of options with them, and they all agreed with this one is the best fit for us.
If you get a chance to go to the board convention in Milwaukee, you'll see the playground equipment and all the various vendors. And what Jake said is very true. You can walk there and you can see the difference in price. It's amazing. Just between the vendors right next to each other, almost a similar product, and the price is just dramatically different. But they set everything up in that convention where you can see, you can play on it if you want to.
Was it when you didn't attend any of the sessions there?
I do, but I'm usually on the merry-go-round. They have a really nice,
Okay, let's keep moving along. Let's stay on topic here. Does anybody have any more questions or comments on this? And then we'll go ahead with the roll call vote.
Bartle?
Yes.
Deep?
Yes.
Maddox Nelson?
Yes.
Neufeld?
Yes.
Hyatt?
yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes. We'll go to item F, consideration to approve Junior Optimist as a district-sponsored club.
I move the board approve Junior Optimist as a district-sponsored club.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this? We had a presentation at the COW meeting.
Maybe I'd like to say that I just think that I commend the Optimists, because I think Junior Optimists, they are the first club that I can recall that's gone through the process,
Yeah.
right?
Cheer.
Oh, that's right, Cheer
Cheer.
was. I'm sorry. They're the second
Still
club.
good.
Yeah, they're still good. They went through the process.
Yeah, it's good.
Is this one costing us money, or are they funding themselves?
No, I thought I understood that there was a club that closed, and the
Yeah,
funds
right.
that
Cost
were in-
neutral, yeah.
Yeah, it was cost neutral.
It was the
Yeah.
Teachers Rising,
Yeah. So it's going to be a bunch
which
of-
is sad.
And I don't think that involved a lot of money. Teachers Rising, it was a lot of money.
No, just the stipend for the advisor.
Yeah. Okay, so any further questions or comments? And we'll do a roll call on this.
Deep,
Yes.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes. And item G is consideration to approve district new hires.
Move the board approve the following new hires: Carly Berra, 5th grade, Cynthia Miller, middle school, English language arts; Jenna Carpenter, 3rd grade west; Lisa Comfort, cross categorical north; Heather Clement, cross categorical east; Philip Shabiak, English language arts; Kira Simones, full-time substitute middle school; and Bethany Close, reading teacher.
Second.
Any questions or comments? And a roll call on this, please.
Maddox Nelson,
Yes.
Newfeld,
Yes.
Hyatt,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Zimmerman,
Yes.
Bardo,
Yes.
Deep,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. Item H, report of employee resignations and retirements.
I move the board accept the following resignations: Dawn Walbeck, special ed teacher; Lonnie Moore, custodian; and Laura Bessa, school social worker, effective at the end of the school 2020-2021 school year.
Second.
Any comments, questions?
Heidi, has that social worker position been posted?
So we posted a new position for pupil services mental health specialist as part of our mental health grant and our ESSER, the work that we're doing. And we kept that wide open to see a wide net of counselors, social workers, and we have interviews this week, and we have social workers and counselors. So now that Lauren has resigned, we're filling that one and then hopefully filling that one as well. So we tried to cast a wide net.
Okay, good.
Is the goal to hire at least one social worker in that position?
So we want to replace Lauren's position, but then we also either, depending on the skill set of the person and the needs of the district based on our goals, it's going to be who's going to fit that role, whether it's a school counselor who has the mental health or a social worker who has the mental health piece as well. So it's really going to depend on the person.
Thank you.
Okay.
Julie, how are we with staff for next year looking so far?
We still have a few hires to make. I have to commend our admin team, though. They got after the hiring early this season to have a better candidate pool. I'm not exactly sure how many are left. Of course, Heidi just mentioned one, and I think we have some at the high school left, math and ELA. So we're getting there.
Good job.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, this is resignations, and we'll just do a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then item I, report of donations.
I move the board accept the following donations: donation of 700 masks from Marshfield's Children's, $250 from Cornerstone Chiropractic and Wellness for Red Robin Machining, $1,163.40 from Champs for Nebokan School Forest Project, $770 from AMS and Unified School District staff for the Nebokan School Forest, Julie Langsett Memorial Bench, $300 from St. John's Church Choir for Nebokan School Forest Project, $5,000 from the Myers Family Foundation Fund for Nebokan School Forest Project, $500 from Glenn Weber Paul for the AHS Girls Softball, $200 from Patricia and Christopher Shinners for AHS Girls Softball, $150 from Covet Credit Union for AHS NHS Pickleball Tournament, $300 from JW Maddock and Sons for the AHS NHS Pickleball Tournament, and $4,000 from Gene Haas Foundation for the Red Robin Machining, for a total of $12,633.40.
Oh, second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said wow, because
That sounds like a,
every month it's
Yeah, so So we'd just like to say thank you to all those who donated. It's a huge help to our district.
Can I ask who this Gene Haas Foundation people are? That's not the first time that name has come up.
I don't know all the details, Mary. Gene Haas was a gentleman whose career was turned around in machine tool. And he donates supplies to CTE for specifically programming of CNC machines to get more kids involved in the trade. That's the purpose of the foundation.
Okay.
So it's more of a national foundation.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and as Julie sent out in an email this afternoon to the board, we're not going to do a closed session because the closed session is posted as a meeting with legal counsel, and our legal counsel cannot be here tonight. And so the next item would be to confirm the next meeting, Tuesday, June 22nd. And then we'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I think everybody said aye, so that.
I heard it. Remember the meeting